Insights there by Peter Pinches Maura, who, by the way, is currently at the R.F.U.E.A grounds on Gong Road, and he will be telling us what is happening in day one of the Safari Sevens. And after that, I'll be talking to Michael Giduka, who is currently on set here with us. We'll be discussing a raft of issues that are happening. But I hear it's raining cat and dogs where Peter Pinches Maura is at. But let's just see it for ourselves. Good afternoon, Peter Pinches Maura. I hope you're doing very well and you are warm this afternoon. Tell us, how is day one of the Safari Sevens going?
Well, a very good afternoon, Florence, coming to you live from the R.F.U.E.A grounds, where currently the 23rd edition of the Safari 7 is ongoing, an exemption of competition. This particular one so different for the last 2 years. If you just look at, actually not the biggest turnout as expected, but if you look at the teams that are participating currently, the world-class team, we have teams from the World Series side, the likes of Spain, the likes of South Africa, and even our neighbors Uganda, as well as Russia, who has been able to field 2 teams. And I'm currently underway is KCB, the National 7 Circuit champion, taking on Zimbabwe. It's an exemptional match. Zimbabwe are currently leading. We have had actually now these are round 2 matches. We have had round 1 matches. We have had exemptional results, especially with the national team. That is the Kenya Shujaa, being able to record first wins in the first 2 games. And of course, the Morans were able to record in the kickoff match around 9:30. They were able to record a 24-10 win against Uganda. But later they lost against South Africa, who are seeded first with a margin of just 5 points. So the level of the competition is an exemption one. Maybe, Florence, just a quick recap on some of the results that have happened, or rather some of the matches that have already happened. In round 1, Uganda lost the first match against Kenya Morans, that is 24-10. And then South Africa, who have been seeded first, and they have not just a South African team, they have the best squad coming to Nairobi with the likes of Cecil Africa gracing this particular competition. They were able to record a 61-0 win against Burundi before the third match that ended 19-19, that is Western Province, against Zastava from Russia. Samurai, who are the defending champions, they lost their first match against Red Whalers, an invitation side from the UK, and later Blue Bulls were able to record a draw, a 24-24 draw against another Russian side, that is the Russian Sevens Academy, that is under the tutelage of a legendary coach from Fiji. Shuja's, the Kenya main team, or rather you can call it the Kenya A team, were able to record a 31-0 win against Zambia. That is a Pool C encounter before Zimbabwe were humbled to a 24-0 by 70s. Another invitation side from France, and later we saw the National 7th Circuit champion KCB. They were able to record a 24-7 win against HSBC series side, that is Spain. Just go a long way to tell you that the competition has changed. People expected that maybe Samurai could be able to record wins, consecutive win. Lucky for them, in the second pool game, they were able to record a win. But it's going to be a tough competition with the teams having to field the best squad that they have. If you look at the Kenyan team, we saw the return of most of the experienced players that are making up the Shujaas, and of course the youngsters who were able to impress during the last season World 7 Series. They're not making up the Morans, so it's going to be impressive to see, to be interesting actually, to see how the 2 days will be faring. And maybe who knows, we might be surprised seeing maybe the likes of Morans, because with how they played against South Africa, I think they are in to win this particular competition. But again, competition is wide. We are going to see different teams providing different dynamics, or rather approaching different match differently. And that is the exciting part about it. The fans are coming in large numbers. Of course, the weather providing, or rather making some of them to decide to maybe hold back at home. But I'm advising anyone who is probably at home and wants to make his way to the R.F.U.E.A, make sure that you have a raincoat and a gumboot, because the weather here is a bit rainy, and even the clouds are hanging, and you can see that maybe by the time we have the last match around 5 p.m, the weather will be different, Florence. But for now, this is what we have from the R.F.U.E.A grounds. Once we have anything, any update, we'll make sure that we give you the best from the R.F.U.E.A ground. Back to Florence in studio.
Peter Pinches Maura, before I let you go, I would like to ask you about the organization. How would you rate the 2019 Safari Sevens? And also, I've seen on social media a lot of guys, I don't know if us media guys are being petty, but I want to believe it's not pettiness, that we do not have a right place for the media to do their work. We do not have a specific place set aside for the media. Peter Pinches Maura, are you suffering where you are? Have they done justice to you as a journalist?
Well, I think by their organization and the weather, how it has behaved, let me say that maybe this is beyond them. Probably they organize. Of course, we have a media center, but it's not a place that we can't be able to do what we are doing now, providing you with live feeds. Just a place that you can be able to sit down and maybe prepare your story for a bulletin, or rather, it even favors some of the photojournalists and even newspaper journalists. But for us, for broadcast, you have to come out here and get trained on a bit and make sure that you provide the best angles. But in terms of any other aspect of organization, I think this one is an exemption of competition. And it's good, Florence. You talked about how the Safari 7 for years have been one of the well-organized team sports in the country. But and now it's good to see rugby coming back to its glory days in terms of the organization. If the fans are coming back to the stadium, and I'm just hoping that even for tomorrow, we can be able to see a larger number of fans coming to this particular stadium. Remember again, rugby is also attracting different sponsors now. Remember, for a very long time, we have been suffering with some of them shying away because of different wrangles in the union, as well as mismanagement of funds from different quarters. And for very long, for several years, rugby has been suffering. Especially, you remember, they were able to secure a large sponsorship deal, or rather big sponsorship deal from one of the leading betting firms that has since exited the market. And once they exited, or rather they terminated their contract with rugby, then we saw rugby going back to a standard that we are not used to. And it's good to see companies coming back and investing. You could see the stadium is branded. That just tells you that we have a lot of money being channeled into this particular tournament. And remember again, Florence, it's good for this particular competition to have the level of competition with the likes of Cecil Africa having to grace this competition and playing against our Kenyan side. It's good to it will help us to gauge ourselves because in November we are supposed to head to South Africa for the Olympic qualifier, and with the ladies having secured that ticket to the Olympics in Tokyo, it will also be nice to see the men's team also secure a ticket to the Olympics for the second consecutive time. And I mean that will go a long way in growing rugby in the country, because again, just participating in the Olympics, there's a certain amount of money that the union has to gain. And again, we remember the World Series is supposed to kick off in December with the first leg, where we'll be facing actually Spain and South Africa, who are currently playing this particular tournament. So it's just a competition that will also help us gauge our players. The likes of Injera making a comeback, the likes of Wimbaka. But again, just making a comeback is not enough. We also need to test and see whether when they were away, whether they have been able to maintain the standard that we used to know them in. So it's good to see how they're going to perform. But so far, so good. I think the Kenyan teams have performed well, and I'm hoping to see even a final that we can be able to see the Kenya Shujaa taking on their junior, or rather the B team, that is Kenya Morans. Back to you, Florence.